let's get started for today. I would like to talk about ambient occlusion today because a lot of you are missing it in your work, like just flat out, it's just not there. And that's not how form and physics and light works. You need ambient occlusion. It's not like an add-on, it's not an accessory, it's not an optional thing. Ambient occlusion is when we have pockets. That's it. It's just pockets. So let me bring the reference in, good old Sinatra. All right. And okay, so ambient occlusion is what happens when we have complete light rejection between two hard surfaces. So you don't have ambient occlusion on an individual object unless you have an object that has crevices on its own. So let's do a quick little analysis here. So we're just gonna, let me pop out the chat so I can keep you guys close. Okay, so let's do a basic form study, just like a basic form. All right, it's just gonna be a blob, and you should do tons of these in your lifetime as an artist. I lock the layer, I get pure black, and I go on normal but low opacity. All right, all on the same layer, but the layer is locked. And I'm just trying to find the shadow based off where the light source is. And as I apply the shadow, I add more paint. The shadow that I'm applying isn't necessarily what we would call ambient occlusion, but it works under the same principles. There's another little divot there, so we're going to give that a shadow, shrinking the brush as we apply more paint. And in the end, we get like a little cat paw. Aw. We do the same exact thing with white. All right, we're slowly climbing up into the white. Oops. And you can lower opacity even more if you'd like. And we're just applying these values. And slowly but surely, we end up with a form, a three-dimensional object. Now, usually in three-dimensional space, there's more light still moving around. Light travels around even more. And so I'm going to add our bounce light, leaving behind what's left of the form, of the main core shadow, which is now called the Terminator. Some artists just go in and darken it even more, just for that little effect. You can do that too, no biggie. Sometimes bounce light can exist on any flat surface. Right, so just like a little bit here, especially if it's subsurface, meaning that the light is under the surface, subsurface. Right, and then usually we choose the exact track of the light source, so areas that we would call highlights. Those are the areas that get tons of light, and the light travels. Its main footprint or fingerprint. You can see it traveling on that object. Sometimes I follow up with some smudge brush just to get some noise in there and some, get rid of some of the grain of my brush. So when we have two objects beside each other, okay, we want to just have two little cat paws together in the same universe. Thank God I didn't make it a perfect circle. Thank God I didn't make it a perfect circle, because you guys would be very different. Okay, I've really spared myself. Went and mentioned it. I don't know why. So what's happening here now? We have two objects, a standalone. They look great on their own, but I mean, they're missing a little bit of bounce light from this side here. Just give me a second. So yeah, so they look good on their own. Check, they look great. Why don't they look good together? Ooh, because now the space in between them, I don't know what's wrong with me today. The space in between them is now occluding light. What does the word occluding mean? Occluding means not including, literally. It's just not allowing the light in there. So when we have two objects beside each other, what's happening is that instead of the light dressing the object from either side, now we have two objects and the light is trying to sneak in there, but it can't. And the other light for the other object, or maybe it's just one object, it's trying to sneak in there, but it can't, especially if the light source is coming from one side. So let's say two objects. All right, everybody with me? Two objects, light source. Light is throwing, so giving. It's so giving. It's just giving away light. It's like, hey, I want people to see you. Hey, what's going on over here? Why do you guys have a club? Why aren't I invited? Why can't I get in there? Can I get in there? Can I squeeze in there? Light can't do this. No, light can't do that. It can't bend. Don't talk to me about light can bend, Mr. Brock. What are you talking about? In our world, while we're drawing, yes, high gravity, dense black holes can bend light, we know. But I'm talking about just in our world, in our little small world on the surface of the earth, where with our little pencils and easels, just accept that light will not bend for you. So light is just going to keep going in straight vectors and straight lines. It'll never do anything else. So if an object can only go in straight lines and it can't bend, that's why we have what we have. That's why we can see what we see. This fundamental rule, this consistent rule in our small local place in this universe, this consistent rule is why we aren't seeing random breaks in the space-time continuum like in three-body problem, and nothing makes sense anymore because up is down and down is and up is whatever, and everything is a mirror reflection and nothing makes sense, and everything is crazy. You know, these physics are consistent. So light will not bend. It can't squeeze in between the two objects. If the object was by itself, the light is like, yay, hey, I can go here and bounce on your side, and I can go here and bounce on this side. Oh, I can't see behind you. That's okay. Here's a cast shadow. Everything's a-okay. The reason why ambient occlusion is such a big deal in like game graphics and 3D graphics in general and CGI is because it's hard to program in there. It's hard to make the light do that without having every single one of these light rays actually part of the way light works in a 3D scene. Sometimes they cook it in, sometimes, like, is that the right word? Sometimes they paint it in, meaning that they have to paint in some of the shadows their light physics and their engine just can't duplicate. Sometimes they just go in and paint the shadow. But to answer the question once and for all, what is light occlusion or ambient occlusion? It is the slow and gradual rejection of the light between two hard objects. It can be two hard objects on the same surface. By two hard objects, it doesn't mean, or two surfaces of any kind. It doesn't mean, that it doesn't even have to be hard. It means that the light can't get in between them. Sorry, I lost track of that sentence. That's going to happen a lot. I had COVID last week. I think I'm going to have this brain fog for a little while. So let's grab these two buddies here and let's make them make sense. You'll notice ambient occlusion is needed when you have, let's say you have a character with a tunic on, okay? And they've got a belt on, and you want to draw the belt and the tunic. But for some reason, you drew the belt on the tunic, but nothing makes sense. It looks like it's been cut out of a magazine and put on top of the tunic. To make it make sense, you have to not only cast the shadow of the belt, but show how the light is like rejecting, or the object is rejecting light along the edge of the belt. Two objects coming into contact with each other are both going to reject the light from getting in between them. So because that little tiny fissure, that little canyon between them is rejecting light, it's going to have a little bit more radial shading traveling around it, showing all the places the light can't see. So these two objects look perfectly normal, separate from each other, but they look weird beside each other. How do we make them not look weird? We have to show the light getting rejected. That's ambient occlusion. That's it. So actually, this is a really good idea. Let me show you exactly where the light is not getting in with blue. All right, and same on the other side. This is how we make it make sense. All the blue that I just painted in is where we're going to get less light. All right, so those are all the places that I'm going to paint black in a second. All right, so we're going to start with the back one, and we're going to start with the space that we feel like is really the space in between the two of them. That's rejecting the light. Opacity all the way down, black all the way black, and we're just going to slowly show how the light is just not accessing those parts in between those two shapes. We're going to do the first shape first, which is in the background. We're going to show how the light is just not getting in there. It's trying to be part of the cool club, but it can't. And they're like, no, you can't get in here. And like, sorry, this is a closed relationship. The light is like, no, please. I don't know why I made up a story, but are you going to forget it now? No, you're not. You're going to remember this story. You're going to remember how the light was not allowed in the cool kids table. Poor light, right? It's just trying to help everybody. Now I feel sorry for the light. So we're going to get black, and now we're going to go to the second shape. And we're going to slowly reject the light in those areas. It's not even the actual form of two objects, like just based off the light formula alone. It's what both objects are doing to each other, which is they're creating a cave together. Okay, so I'm not doing a great job, but bear with me. I'll get there. And I'm gonna zoom out. Zooming out is just, I can see everything once I zoom out, so never underestimate it. And I'm gonna show how it goes full black in some areas, rejecting that light in between them. Slowly but surely, as we near the blackest black, it just starts to make sense. We can see how the shadow is revealing the form of the objects. Write that back to me. The ambient occlusion is revealing form. And so now they look like they make sense. Isn't that cool? And because it's ambient occlusion, meaning nobody's allowed in the cool club. Okay? Nobody's allowed in the dark goth club. No bounce light is allowed either. Aren't they so mean? Now you don't want to use ambient occlusion in your work. Now you're not going to use any ambient occlusion in your work, all because of my story. Sometimes some bounce light may sneak in. You just follow your instinct, trust your reference, and go from there. But from what I'm seeing in this form that I just built, nah, I don't think any light is going to get in between these two. These two are in love. Nobody else is invited in this club. All right. So because the two came together closer, we might have a little bit of a shared highlight, something like that, just to show where the light source is. That might be nice to add in. Okay, so these two cute little cat paws now make a lot of sense. Areas back here where the light can access, yeah, we can throw in a bit more light in those areas. Oh yeah, you know, things are pretty chill back there. The light can get in there, but it can't get in between them. It's not allowed. All right, and I'm just gonna clean up here. That's ambient occlusion. So can anybody explain to me what ambient occlusion is? You may use the Cool Club example. That will be considered an answer in grading. I will accept that as an answer. And I'm just trying to create like less banding. Okie dokie. Can we call Bounce Light Terry right now? The saggy butt cheeks are in love. Do they look like saggy butt cheeks, really? I thought they looked like little cat paws. Hi Cora. Ambient occlusion reveals form. Beautiful. Okay, what did I get a degree in game design for if I had to watch Ista to find out exactly how ambient occlusion? That's why I'm here, baby. That's why I was born. To help you guys. So let's see where, now that you know what it is, okay? So let's see how they looked like before we added the ambient occlusion. Let's go back to the past. Okay. I believe that's it. Yes. Okay. So paste. Ooh, before. Really weird graphics. Looks like weird game graphics from PS2, right? After. No hate on the PS2. Best PlayStation. All right, so before, after. Yes, there's a bit more shadow in the way I rendered mine, but that was to make a point. In these, yeah, you can bring them down to black or black if you really want to. You can bring the contrast down if you really want to do an exact comparison. So, oops. Okay, so before, oops, before, after, before, after. They rejected the light and created a pocket. So if we go back to your piece here, you can see that you're not doing that. There is light rejection here. It is ambient occlusion in these areas for sure. It's not just the cast shadow. It's two surfaces meeting, creating a little club where the light is not invited. And there are a lot of points like this. And the reason why we discern in the world of visual arts between natural cast shadows and contour shadows and ambient occlusion shadows is because it's painted differently. These are not painted the same. Same physics, same straight lines, bouncing, all of that stuff. Same concept, same physics, but what's painted differently. The reason it's painted differently is because it's sometimes almost a line, and it almost always has a radial shade. So this is how you would paint ambient occlusion between two surfaces. All right, you radially trace the edge. It's not quite a cast shadow, and it's not quite a contour shadow. It's this pocket. Okay, and that's how you paint ambient occlusion. I'm just gonna put this shape underneath this shape. Okay, so it's like just a pocket of light rejection. Damn it, my opacity is not low enough. Okay, bear with me. Okay, and I'm just rejecting the light ever so slowly. And, oops. Select inverse. And delete. No. Select inverse. And delete. I think that's what I'm trying to do. It doesn't matter. I'll just do it manually. God damn it. So it's basically this. Tried to do it real quick, but it's okay. All right, and we're slowly going to notice that that little pocket in between them is starting to get revealed. I'm trying not to create a bounce light line. Bear with me. Right. See, it's tricky to paint it. It's a tough thing to even just try to understand. only because everybody's been teaching it to you wrong. Because it's not contour and it's not cast shadow. It's something in between the two of them. And that's why it's so much, mystification around it. You know, it's so much misunderstanding around it. A lot of people, I think, say it and don't know what it means. And it's the gradual projection of the light between two surfaces that would otherwise have never had this kind of contour. Not contour, it's not a contour. This kind of a trench formed on their own. It's because two surfaces met. Right? But not always. It's not always about two surfaces meeting. Let me go ahead and delete these layers. They look so wrong. It's because it's not always two surfaces meeting. Sometimes ambient occlusion is just the standard cave. But what's also that also can be a result of a cast shadow. And at that point, what are you teaching the student? The cast shadow or the ambient occlusion? So that's why we separate them. Right here, we would say this is a cast shadow. And you have none of it. And this is ambient occlusion, none of it, and none of it over here. And everywhere else it's there and not there. All right, so that's the critique for today. That's what you get, that's what you did wrong. You're missing a lot of the shadow language, the actual what is the light not seeing? So I opened some Portrait Studio models. We're gonna pretend we're the light source. It's going to be a crazy experiment. We're going on a field trip, everybody. All right. The light source is the camera. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Are you guys listening? So I'm going to move the shadows so they are completely out of the camera. Remember, they're there. We can't see them. Ah. Do you guys get it now? So the light source, if it was the camera, would show you this is not possible. There's no way this light source, if the light source was a big eyeball, it would just not see these sections of the eyebrow. Look, we're not seeing this under part of the eyebrow. Okay, we're not. Look at that. So the cast shadows are what the light cannot see. Miss Frizzle's voice. Do you guys get what I just described to you? This is profound. And that's how I want you guys to paint. So right here, what you did is you painted as if the light can see, but it can't. That's impossible. If the light source had an eyeball on it, what can it see and what can it not see? And so I'm just darkening these sections. I could block them, but I'm trying to spare myself some time. I don't want to have to block and blend and block and blend. I would do that if it was if I had all the time I could have, but right now I'm just using soft brush to do a lot of the work for me. So if the light source was an eyeball, what am I talking about? And what does that have to do with ambient occlusion and that special little club in between two hard surfaces? So that's how you have to think. And I know it feels like, oh my God, this is a lot of stuff to think about while drawing. How am I going to do this? No, you can do it. It will develop. It's not the hardest habit to learn. I mean, some people become those airline tower people who tell planes where to go and whether they can land yet, and they basically track planes, and they have to like have this crazy skill of like they're just superhuman, and they learned how to do it. And I think you can learn how to do this. It's not rocket science, literally. It's just a little bit of awareness. Like when you drive and you just notice, when you first drive, it's hard to keep checking the mirrors. Like, oh my God, I have to check the mirrors every couple seconds. This is difficult. And you don't check the mirrors, you lose points, you fail your driving lesson or test. So it's the same thing. Eventually, after a long period of driving, you do it without noticing. It's not the hardest habit to build. Keeping aware of the light source. I don't know what's happening here. Okay, so that's what I'm doing now. I'm trying to find all those points of ambient occlusion. You could argue that the crease of the eyeball against the eyebrow bone is ambient occlusion. You could, because it's two hard surfaces reacting to each other. Okay, and then I'm just finding all those points where we have complete blackout. Complete blackout means the light has been rejected almost 90%, almost 100%. But here you didn't reject the light. How could you break the laws of physics? You're studying the laws of physics in your study. So what you're studying is not a face. What you're studying, first above all things, is the light and the laws of physics. You're studying light physics. You're a student of light. And you're learning how light moves on surfaces and how amazing that is, how wonderful that is. Like, it's insane. It's amazing. All right. So there's a couple likeness points you're losing, but most of the points you lost are because your shadows are not working in a way that shows you're thinking about the light source. Your shadows are being treated as accessories right now. And so we've got this cast shadow, which I have to try to sneak in because your likeness is off. So this guy's nose is closer to his mouth than the original. And a little bit more contours are needed around the cheek, and then that gradual drop of value toward the cheek. Zooming all the way out so I don't miss that gradual drop of value around the forehead. And then that space on the side of his head. And then, of course, there's the shadow that his neck is causing on his shirt. Where did all these shadows go in your quantification of this reference? Where did all the shadows go? Where were they? Why weren't they factored in? Ask yourself that question, dear student. You must know why so that it never happens again. Because if you're not studying the light, then you're just studying symbols. You're just studying shadows, like not shadows, like you know, just really far removed iterations of form, and they're not really form. You know, it's just like a flat cutout version, pre-cooked version of the form that's not really form anymore. It's something else. So I'm just cleaning up here, rejecting more and more light each time. And then what I will do is what I did last class, which is last class I prioritized measurement. This time, obviously, I'm prioritizing ambient occlusion and lighting, but I will address the likeness issue. And please put your references beside. You're missing a lot of, every time you make the reference further than your canvas, you are losing points in that time your eye has to travel. If you're comfortable with that, cool. Sometimes I deliberately do that so I don't have a like-to-like reference. But if you're a student, and you guys are, make sure that your canvas is really close to your reference, as close as possible. You guys aren't there yet to be stress testing yourself by making your canvas further than your reference. Keep it close. In traditional art, they just tape it at the top or staple it at the top of the canvas or use a paper clip or something. So I'm just raising my opacity up a bit and trying to introduce some highlights. But that's really the biggest issue we had today, is this lack of shadow, lack of pockets, lack of ambient occlusion, lack of just understanding that the light source is the reason for all this visibility. Okay, so let's do some really quick measurement. Oh, there's a whole shadow around the mouth. I don't know why I skipped that. So right here. Um, okay, and then we have space underneath. And it's kind of a cast shadow, so it needs to be applied with a bit of a wider range. And there's a bit of bounce light here and there. Lots of likeness is lost because on top of all of this, there was no measurement. It's a pretty complex reference to use. So you're going to face a bit of a rough upward climb, a steep climb to try to get all this stuff working together. If you're not mapping the light and you're not mapping the likeness, again, like last class, you're inviting human error in. All right, so let's jump into liquefy real quick and try to get this likeness to work. And the way I work is I find the largest object in the face. Like I find the largest feature. Obviously, it's his nose. He's a male, so he's just going to have a slightly larger nose. Because you guys paint females and really, really pretty photogenic females, you're going to end up drawing feminine faces for a while until you break the cycle and understand that it's got to be pretty big to read as male if you're drawing like classic male faces, not like the pretty boys of you know, fashion and whatnot, just like the classic male face, I guess I can say. Sorry if I said pretty boys if it was offensive. I didn't mean it like that. I just meant like, you know, like fashion boys, fashion small nose, fashion, you know, I'm sorry. Please don't cancel me. I'm just going to get the chin to sit back on the symmetry line. And I'm going to rotate the nose to go in, pushing the bump of the nose out. So get the largest feature first. It's really very important to do that. Get that, you know, situated, and then everything else is based off that landmark. And then I zoom out a little bit. I guess his nose isn't that droopy or witch-like. And then once I have like a general look to the nose, I'll address other things. So that space between the nose and the mouth, you kind of close that. So I'm just going to lower the mouth a little bit so that space is a bit bigger. That mustache space that men have between the nose and the mouth. All they have to do is just fill it with a mustache. And I'm just cleaning up and checking to see if I need to move that any further down. And then those wrinkles of the nose that you added, they're just a bit too sharp. Those laugh lines, oopsie, those laugh lines there. I'm gonna try to do something with that. So this isn't the likeness class today. It's just about improving the piece in as general ways as possible, and in the biggest ways possible. Likeness is obviously one of the bigger issues of this study, but I think it's been like kind of a repetitive thing I've noticed. A lot of you guys aren't really sure how to, oh, no wonder it's not smudging. No wonder. Okay. A lot of you aren't sure how to even add these shadows, these really complex shadows that sit on the face. So back to liquefy, we moved the mouth. We figured out the general placement of the nose. His nose is kind of crooked a little bit and kind of bends inward, and I'm darting my eyes. Here's a quick trick. Dart your eyes back and forth. Practice it now. Look here, look there, as fast as you can. It'll be like an animation flip book, and it'll show you what you have to move and what you have wrong. So right now it revealed to me that the lips need to be tilted that way. Amazing trick for just getting likeness. Just to get a quick idea of what's left. And then for the eyes, big mistakes. Obviously, this eye is too low, this eye is too high and close to that one. So I'll deal with the eyes in a bit, but I'm just taking it one at a time. All right, back to soft brush, 100%. And now I'm just trying to figure out the rest of this. All right, and then that shadow sits underneath. There's a little bit of light under his lip. And that shadow climb is up to me, just like that. And then that's it. And then we're just gonna go full black and try to get those cast shadows in. Nope. There's a certain point when you cross it, you get all of the major points down. After that, you can mess up some things and you still get away with it. So as for the nose shadow, sometimes I don't even bother trying to get it to blur the same way as the reference. I just duplicate that section, I lasso it, duplicate it, and I just blur on Gaussian blur. I don't even bother, and don't overdo it because then it's obvious. Do it enough that it starts to look like a cast shadow. Cast shadows have a blurry edge because soft brush is the actual silhouette of light. And then full black, and then trying to get those areas of complete occlusion just there. The lip, the upper lip and the nose, so the top of the lip and the bottom of the nose create an ambient occlusion club. And I'm just going to radially hug the edge of the nose and lead it into that shadowy edge. Kind of a messy job. Let me try that again. So last time I did a lot of blocking. This time I'm doing a lot of soft brush because I got to talk about two things, not just likeness this time around. Okay, see that hugged edge of the nose receding, oopsie, receding into shadow? See that? It makes it feel like more of a natural edge that is actually occluding light as it turns away from the light. And now I'm just blending those areas of the nose that don't need a line, they don't need anything, they just need a bit of highlight for the nose, and that's it. And then filter, liquefy. And I'm just gonna enlarge this nostril a touch, darting my eyes back and forth to see if there's anything else I missed. His nostrils could go a little bit higher. That curve in his laugh line, it's not really there. It's kind of an open space. And then just blending this laugh line out. He's not quite that old yet. and then little pieces here and there. And then I'll assemble the eyes where they need to go, and then we'll be done. Sorry, I'm starting to lose my voice now, end of the day. Okay. All right, so for the eyes, let's try that again. Let's dart our eyes back and forth between this eye and that eye. Back and forth really quickly. Look here, look there, look here, look there, look here, look there, really quickly. You see that? It's starting to show you what the problem is with yours. So the problem with yours is that the eyes need to be tilted, right? Enlarged. Not so much enlarged, but this guy's eyes were big. He was kind of a baby face. And so now I'm going to do it again. Back and forth, looking back and forth. And I can see this eye needs to be tilted down just a little bit. Back and forth, back and forth. This eye could be wider. And then now it's like the size of the pupils and the size of the eye a little bit more. This canvas, this picture is bigger than this picture. So see before, after, and then I'll show you the full before of the eyes. So I hope this has been a helpful class. It's a lot of stuff. I can completely understand that. Where's my? I thought I also liquefied. I guess I didn't. Okay. So like before, after, and then all this extra stuff, you could take care of it in your piece. I'm just gonna do one last liquefy pass to try to get some likeness. And the best way to do that is to just zoom out all the way. Just see what we're missing. And it's just the placement of the jaw. And I would say the size of the nose. The nose doesn't drag too low. And then there's the pupils and the iris. They're looking right at us. So let's try to get the first one to look right at us. Got 10 minutes left. And then follow with the second one. The second one is much bigger. Yours was a little bit small. Okay, and then we are correcting the placement of this one. So darken, and then just trying to expand the size just so it gets in a bit closer. Okay, and same with that. A little bit of extra light there. And then I think the size of his head can also be adjusted. Lots of other details here and there. I can't really do all of them. I do have 10 minutes, so I could try to block a little bit more. Got to give him that wide head at the top. It's kind of got like a very unique shape to his head. And I could flip the canvas as well. Trying to get them both to look the same. Could widen a little bit more as well. Lots of stuff I could change, but it's not my study. So I'm going to just clean this up here. And the chin could be wider. I'm so sorry. I'm a kind of a perfectionist. And the smile. I don't want to lose the smile or the gaze. The gaze is just so much more alert in there in the reference. And I need to clean up that bit left over. So I'm just going to block a bit and shape out the real shadow of the brow bone. Keep behind what's left over in that contour. Shape out the edges of the eye socket. Make sure that the lower eyelid isn't completely outlined. All right, and it's running there. And then just getting some white block and blocking in the nose. And this like straight line. Okay, and then you see this little shadow motion there. I'm just gonna get that in there. There's so much more I could do if I had more time. Usually these photo studies take a while, and you should give it a while. You should give it many revisits and a lot of attempts. Don't think that just one session is going to do anything for you. You need to really take your time and take a break and then come back and take your time again until you have hammered out everything you could get out of that reference. And that's what I do with my references. I do a lot of different takes, coming back after a while, you know, like a day break or something like that, and trying again until I'm absolutely sure that it's everything I could offer that at the time. I'm just gonna shrink the nose just a bit. I think I overdid it. Not quite there with the likeness, but a little bit closer than we were before. I think the eyes should also be wider. Definitely wider eyes, further apart, meaning. Oops, this other way. And then flip. Too much. And I'm just cleaning up over here. Okay, and his eyes are not quite so winged. They're kind of tucked in, kind of circular, almost like, kind of looks like a young Hannibal Lecter. I mean, Anthony Hopkins. Joking. People are just like quietly taking notes, and I'm just like, I've just noticed that he's just been looking at me like that this entire time I've been drawing him. Frank, stop looking at me like that. I'm trying to teach. All right. Oh my God, stop. Okay, and then there's that little bit of bend inward just there. The small little things, they don't make that big a difference. But let's take a look at the before and after. Okay. So before, after. So we're a little bit closer to the reference, definitely. I could try a little bit more. I could push it a little bit more, but unfortunately, I don't have that much time since I had a lot of subjects to cover. We talked about the difference between these two balls and these two balls. All right. What's the difference between them? That's the ambient occlusion. Maybe I should just put them beside each other like this. Pause, not balls. So that's how the light is being rejected. And a lot of you guys forget to paint like this. So what I want to do is, I don't want to lose this, but I also want to get that before and after. So yeah, that was that. Those extra things I just did lost us that bit of history in the back. You guys saw that before and after. That's it for today. Thank you, everyone, for watching today. I hope you guys learned something about using lines to measure, of course, like we talked about last time, but also, most importantly, form studies. Knowing what to do with shadows, knowing how to work with your shadows. You know what? What the heck am I talking about? I could just grab it and put it here. I'm such a dingle hopper. So before, after. So you can see in the before you were missing a lot of stuff, and it just was not reading. Before and after. Let me just see if I can do those final little tweaks that are bothering me, because to me they stick out like a sore thumb. To me they drive me crazy, and I have to make sure I have them all. I'm sorry, Frank, I didn't do you justice today, but next time maybe. All right, so before, after, looking at the reference, the measurement is missing, but also, even if we had perfect measurement, write this back to me, even if we had perfect measurement, there's something still missing in your rendering, and that's the ambient occlusion. That is the most important change I made today for this study, not just the measurement. Yes, you guys, measurement is really important. I talked about that last class. I really just focused on that a lot. But measurement is a non-thinking skill. Like, it's not a skill. It's just a ruler. It doesn't take skill to bring in a ruler and draw a line against a ruler. You guys just forget it's that simple. You think it's a skill, but it's not. A skill is being able to turn this into this. That is where the skill comes in. The skill needs knowledge. The skill has knowledge behind it. Bringing in a ruler and just measuring everything up against the ruler and just hovering the nose over, it takes very little effort, which is why it's so unfortunate when you guys lose likeness points for no reason. Right? You guys don't want to do that. You want to be able to draw the thing you're intending, and then, you know, everything else after that, that's where the pain can start. It's unnecessary pain you guys put yourself through when you forget to measure. There's no reason for it. So the outside of that, the skill is ambient occlusion here. That's the real skill that we talked about today. Okay, the skill shows between the butt cheeks. Yes, the skill is hidden between. Why do I read comments? Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate you guys coming out to the live streams. My masterclass covers everything I covered today and so much more on a portrait. If you guys want it, it's available on my store on Gumroad, and it's at 50% off right now. It might go even lower for the holidays, so it might go down to like $40 or $35 for the holidays. For anyone who's interested in buying it and it's a little out of your price range, it might get very, very low. The usual price is $90. And Portrait Studio is also on sale. You saw me use it today. Remember this. Remember that the light source is an eyeball. All right, I'll leave you guys with that. Bye, guys. Thank you all for watching. Bye. Oh, and if you want to submit your work for critique, you just have to go to istebrak.com, click on the subreddit icon right here. That'll take you to my subreddit where you can submit your work for critique. Okay, bye, guys.